The Tale of King Bhallàtiya, a lesson in compassion and wisdom. On a peaceful day at Jetavana, also known as Jeta's Grove, the Buddha shared a meaningful story about Queen Malika, who was also known as Lady Vu Kui Hoa. The story began with a dramatic event. A quarrel had broken out between Queen Malika and King Bhallàtiya of Kosala. The cause? A seemingly trivial matter concerning court privileges, yet it was enough to enrage the king to the point where he refused to even look at the queen. In her worry and sorrow, Queen Malika thought, "Surely the Blessed One does not know that the king is angry with me." But how could anything escape the notice of the awakened one? The next day, as if sensing the queen's distress, the Buddha, along with his disciples, went on alms round in Benares and made an unexpected visit to the royal palace. The scene that followed was remarkable. Despite his anger, King Bhallàtiya couldn't help but welcome the Buddha. He came out, reverently received the Buddha's alms bowl as though it were a precious treasure, and with utmost respect escorted the Buddha and his disciples to the upper floor of the palace, where they were seated. A lavish meal was served, and pure water was poured, everything meticulously prepared for this honored guest. After the meal, in the solemn atmosphere, the Buddha suddenly asked, "Why is Queen Malika not present here?" The question pierced the heart of the king, who was still burning with anger. He replied bitterly, "It is because of her foolish arrogance about her royal status." However, the Buddha, with his boundless compassion, did not reproach the king. Instead, he gently reminded him, "Great king, long ago, when you were a heavenly being, you were separated from your companion for just one night, and yet you mourned that loss for 700 years. The Buddha's words were like a beam of light cutting through the darkness of the king's anger and misunderstanding. Intrigued by this mysterious reminder, King Bhallàtiya asked the Buddha to tell the story of the past. And so, in the quiet, reverent atmosphere of the palace, the Buddha began to unfold an ancient tale, a story of love, separation, and the lingering sorrow that lasted for 7 centuries. The tale of King Bhallàtiya, a lesson in compassion and wisdom. One sunny day, King Bhallàtiya of Benares decided to leave his magnificent palace to indulge in his passion for hunting. The enticing aroma of roasted wild deer meat was irresistible to the king, drawing him away from any concerns about leaving his kingdom in the hands of his ministers. Armed with 5 types of weapons and accompanied by his loyal hunting dogs, the king set out in his chariot toward the majestic snowy mountains. The king's journey along the Ganges River was an exhilarating adventure. He ventured deep into the towering mountain ranges, where few humans had ever set foot. When he could no longer follow the main course of the Ganges, the king chose to explore a small tributary, hunting as he went and enjoying the delicious scent of grilled meat. Every step brought new discoveries until the king finally climbed a lofty mountain peak. Atop the mountain, a breathtaking scene unfolded before the king's eyes. A crystal-clear stream meandered through the valley, its waters gurgling melodiously like nature's music. In the rainy season, the water rose to chest level, but in the dry season, it barely reached one's knees. Beneath the crystal waters, fish and turtles swam gracefully, their movements shimmering in the sunlight on the silver sands below. On both sides of the stream, lush trees cast their shadows, heavy with flowers and fruits. Birds and insects flitted about, delighting in the nectar and ripening fruit, creating a vivid painting of wilderness life. Amid this beautiful landscape, the king spotted a strange sight. By the charming stream, a celestial couple embraced each other tightly, caressing and comforting one another, all while weeping bitterly. Their cries echoed throughout the valley, creating a striking contrast to the peaceful beauty surrounding them. Curious about this scene, the king decided to investigate. With the skill of a seasoned hunter, King Bhallàtiya signaled his hunting dogs to remain still in the underbrush. A mere glance and snap of his fingers were enough for the trained dogs to understand their task and quietly hide. The king carefully placed his bow and weapons at the base of a tree and stealthily approached the celestial couple. Every step was calculated, making no sound. Once close enough, the king spoke, his voice full of curiosity and compassion. "Why are you crying?" The Buddha began narrating this story with a deep, mesmerizing tone. He painted a vivid picture of a long-lost time when King Bala ruled. King Bala, a passionate hunter, frequently left his palace to satisfy his love for the hunt. On one particular journey, the king ventured to the peak of the Fragrant Mountain, a place believed to be inhabited by demons and mystical creatures. When he reached the mountain's summit, King Bala was taken aback by an enchanting scene. A valley filled with fragrant flowers and rare herbs, and amidst this beauty were supernatural beings. Realizing the delicacy of the situation, the king acted with utmost caution. He commanded his hunting dogs to remain still, carefully laid down his bow and arrows, and quietly advanced to observe more closely. As he moved, the king's gaze was drawn to a peculiar couple. They appeared to be celestial beings. They embraced one another, stroking each other tenderly while sobbing uncontrollably, creating a scene that was both beautiful and heartbreaking. Curious about their plight, King Bala decided to speak. With a voice mingling curiosity and compassion, the king asked, "Winter has passed, so why have you returned here, sharing your sorrows by the mountain stream? You look so much like mortals, but what kind of beings are you? Please tell me." As King Bhallàtiya spoke, a moment of silence enveloped the scene. The male celestial seemed lost in deep sorrow, unable to speak. It was the celestial woman, her eyes still wet with tears, who began to speak with a voice as sweet as birdsong. She described their journey across the magnificent mountain ranges, Mount Tam, Mount Huang, and Mount Ma Lai, where they followed cool streams. She recounted how the forest creatures mistook them for mortals, while hunters labeled them as demons, painting a vivid picture of their life as supernatural beings wandering among humans. The king was deeply moved by her story. He looked at the celestial couple with compassion and curiosity. In his mind, a stream of questions arose. He could not fathom why these beings, seemingly enjoying sweet love, could be so heartbroken. Thrice, with increasing earnestness, the king asked. He compared them to earthly lovers, who, while caressing one another, weep bitterly. "You look so much like mortals," the king exclaimed. "So why such deep sorrow? Please tell me." Finally, the celestial woman decided to share their heartbreaking story. Her voice trembled as she spoke of the fateful night they were separated. One single night, without love, without tenderness, was filled only with profound sorrow. It was a brief time, but it brought what seemed like an eternal pain. "We long for each other," she sobbed, "but we can never reclaim that lost night." Her words left the king even more puzzled. He could not imagine how such a brief separation could cause such prolonged suffering. With the understanding of an experienced man, the king gently asked, "Could it be that this lonely night left a wound too deep to heal in your hearts? Or did you lose something precious, a possession, or perhaps a beloved person passed away?" The king's question not only showed his concern, but also revealed the wisdom of a ruler, always seeking to understand others' pain. The celestial woman continued her tale with a voice as sweet as the flowing stream. She described the beautiful valley where they met, a place shaded by trees and with crystal-clear waters flowing between the rocks. Suddenly, a storm came, separating the couple. The male celestial, driven by his worry for his lover, risked his life to wade through the violent waters to find her. Meanwhile, the celestial woman, with joyful steps, wandered through the forest in search of the most beautiful flowers. She told how she carefully picked each petal and blade of grass, creating exquisite garlands. There were radiant golden bells, lush green stems, and pure white daffodils glistening with morning dew. All of these she gathered, hoping to present them to her lover when they reunited. Her story became even more vivid, as she described picking the most beautiful roses in the region and painstakingly weaving them into twin garlands. She also told of collecting soft leaves to spread into a natural carpet, where they could lie together and enjoy a sweet sleep throughout the night. The celestial woman went on to describe how she prepared fragrances from cinnamon wood and sandalwood. She ground them on a stone slab, creating a seductive scent to perfume them both. Then she told of the moment she stood by the stream, picking pure lotus flowers. But tragedy struck when evening came, and the rising waters separated the couple on either side of the stream. Her voice grew choked as she recounted the long, painful night. They stood on opposite sides of the stream, gazing at each other longingly, laughing and crying in excruciating sorrow. It was only at dawn, when the waters receded, that they were able to rush into each other's arms, laughing and crying with overwhelming joy at being reunited. Finally, with a voice full of emotion, the celestial woman revealed that nearly 700 years had passed since that fateful night. An eternity had gone by, but the pain of their separation remained as fresh as if it had happened just yesterday. Her story was not only a song of love, but also a testament to the power of memories and how sorrow can endure through time. King Bhallàtiya, filled with curiosity and compassion, gently asked the celestial couple about their lives. His voice was warm, tinged with concern. "O wondrous beings, please tell me, how long do your lives last? If this is a tale from ages past or from the elder stories, do not hesitate, share it with me." His eyes shone with sincere care, awaiting their answer. With a voice as clear as a babbling brook, the celestial woman responded, "Great King, our lives span 1,000 glorious summers. We live in peace, rarely suffering from sorrow or pain. Our lives are filled with joy and happiness, like an endless love song." Her words were like a sweet melody, captivating all who heard them. Upon hearing this, King Bhallàtiya fell into deep thought. His mind raced as he compared his life to that of the celestial beings. "How strange," he mused. "These creatures, though considered inferior to humans, have suffered for 700 years over a single night apart. And here I am, a king ruling over a vast kingdom of 300 miles, abandoning all my wealth and luxury to wander in this wilderness. Truly, what a grave mistake." Realizing the absurdity of his actions, the king decided to return to the capital immediately. On his way back, his mind was filled with reflections on the responsibilities and duties of a king. When he reached the gates of Benares, the court officials eagerly gathered around him, asking about the strange things he had witnessed in the mystical snowy mountains. With a warm voice and bright eyes, King Bhallàtiya recounted the entire miraculous story of the celestial couple. Every word of his painted a vivid picture of love, pain, and the valuable lessons he had learned. From that day on, the king dedicated himself to acts of charity, caring for the people, and enjoying the luxurious life he was blessed with, always remembering the lesson about the value of love and responsibility that the celestial beings had inadvertently taught him. The Buddha, with a deep and wise gaze, began to tell the story of King Bhallàtiya. He painted a lively picture of the king who found the light of enlightenment in the depths of the forest. With gentle yet captivating words, the Buddha described how King Bhallàtiya, after having his mind opened by the celestial couple, returned to the righteous path. He spoke of the great transformation in the king's life, abandoning the meaningless pleasure of hunting, turning to caring for the poor, and finding peace in a life as serene as a gentle breeze drifting through peaceful days. Then, with a rhythmic tone, the Buddha recited verses containing profound lessons. He emphasized the importance of learning from the experiences of others, advising people to stay away from useless quarrels and instead work on correcting bad habits. The Buddha's words echoed in the quiet air, like a reminder of the pain and regret that can last a lifetime due to momentary mistakes. When the Buddha finished his sermon, the room was filled with meaningful silence. Suddenly, Queen Malika, with tears in her eyes, stood up from her seat. She approached the Buddha and bowed respectfully. Her voice trembled with emotion as she recited the final verse, expressing her deep gratitude for the Buddha's precious teachings. She spoke of her resolve to follow the Buddha's words, praising the golden teachings filled with kindness and compassion. When she finished the verse, she proclaimed the countless virtues of the Master, expressing her joy that all her worries had been relieved by his advice. The story ended with the beautiful image of the harmonious life shared by the King of Kosala and Queen Malika. From then on, they lived together in love and mutual respect, a living testament to the power of the Buddha's teachings in healing the rifts in marital life and bringing lasting happiness. 3 key lessons of the Buddha's teachings. After telling this story, the Buddha concluded with 3 important lessons for his disciples. Lesson 1: Impermanence and the transient nature of all phenomena. The Buddha emphasized, "Dear disciples, through the story of King Bhallàtiya and the celestial couple, we can clearly see the impermanence of all phenomena. Life is like a dream, and everything is constantly changing. Happiness and suffering, glory and disgrace, all are fleeting." He continued, King Bhallàtiya, once a powerful ruler, became a wanderer in the deep forest. The celestial couple, once living in happiness, fell into the sorrow of separation. This shows that nothing is eternal in this world. Understanding this, we will not cling too much to joy, nor will we despair in sorrow. Look at life like a flowing stream, the Buddha taught. Each moment is new and never repeats. Instead of clinging to the past or worrying about the future, live fully in the present. That is the way to find true peace. Lesson 2. The law of cause and effect and karmic consequences. The Buddha continued, "The second lesson, dear disciples, is about the law of cause and effect and karmic consequences. Every action, word, and thought we have creates certain consequences. Just as King Bhallàtiya learned, our decisions, no matter how small, can profoundly affect our lives and those of others." He added, "The celestial couple suffered the pain of separation because of a careless word." King Bhallàtiya learned a valuable lesson about compassion and responsibility by witnessing their sorrow. This shows that every action has consequences, and we must take responsibility for what we do. Remember, the Buddha emphasized, karma is not a predetermined fate, but the result of our choices. By practicing mindfulness, controlling our thoughts, and acting with compassion, we can create good karma, leading to happiness and liberation. And lesson 3, the importance of compassion and wisdom. Finally, the Buddha addressed the third lesson. Dear disciples, the most important lesson from this story is the power of compassion and wisdom. King Bhallàtiya found the right path not through power or wealth, but by opening his heart and learning from the pain of others. He explained, compassion helps us connect with others, understand their suffering, and act for the common good. Wisdom allows us to see the true nature of things, to overcome illusions and attachments. When we combine both, we can achieve deep understanding and true happiness. Remember, the Buddha concluded, the path to enlightenment is not about separating from the world, but about learning how to live in it with compassion and wisdom. Just as King Bhallàtiya did, use your experiences to grow spiritually and help others. With this, the Buddha's sermon came to an end, leaving the assembly in quiet contemplation. Each person felt as if they had been touched by the teachings, gaining a new understanding of life and their role in the world. We sincerely thank you for taking the time to listen to this meaningful story. We hope the lessons from the Buddha and the story of King Bhallàtiya have brought you deep reflections and positive inspiration. If you found this content helpful, please share it with friends and family. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss future meaningful stories. We greatly appreciate your feedback in the comments section below. We wish you a day filled with peace and wisdom. See you in the next story.